everyone. Hi, I'm Chris Lethem here with Think Tech Hawaii at The Economy in Use is our show. And today our guest is Erik Kvam. And Erik, you are with Hawaii Energy Law Services.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. And you're also associated with an organization called REACH?
Yes, REACH is a trade association. It stands for Renewable Energy Action Coalition of Hawaii. And that's basically a vehicle for participating in all of the legislative and regulatory dockets that relate to renewable energy.
So how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this for 11 years now in Hawaii.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a long time.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, so the whole thing is, what we talked about earlier was about getting Hawaii to 100% renewable energy. Now, do we really need to be 100% renewable energy?
Oh,
is there a reason why we've decided that that's what we want to accomplish?
Yes, there's lots of benefits to being on renewable energy. The first of which is energy security benefits. We're not dependent on imported fuels for our energy needs. That's one of the main benefits. There's the environmental preservation benefits.
Okay.
Of generating electricity from things like wind and solar, not from carbon-based imported fuels.
Well, if we go with 100% renewable energy, is anything that's non-renewable, like geothermal, is that considered renewable or non-renewable energy?
Geothermal is considered renewable.
That is considered renewable?
Yes, certainly.
Okay, so we have renewable energy on the Big Island. How much, do you have any idea how much of the energy comes from geothermal currently, or how much energy that they actually are capable of generating?
I don't know the exact figure. They say that the number of kilowatt hours, we're talking about electricity on the Big Island, I think it's something that's close, I believe it's over 40%.
That's a pretty good number.
Kilowatt hours on the Big Island, yeah.
So is that part of a renewable energy goal, is to be able to bring the energy that's generated from geothermal to the other islands? Is that even a plausibility?
It's a possibility.
Because when I think of, like, we talk about things like smart grid technology, we talk about things about, alternative energy. We have cars that we're moving to non-fossil fuel-based systems such as hydrogen and electricity. Of course, the problem with cars that run on electricity is you still have to generate the electricity from something.
Right. That's correct.
That's correct. Are we just switching one form of carbon-based fuel for another?
It can be that way. I mean, the way the topic of energy breaks down, generally it's energy for stationary uses, which means electric power, and then there's energy for mobile uses, which generally means transportation uses.
So I did a little research this morning, and I was just kind of checking out the whole thing with solar energy.
Right.
And one of the things that I saw, which I thought was very interesting, was solar-powered windows, or the sort of PV windows. Now, right now, condos don't really get to participate in photovoltaic
That's true.
platforms. But if we have photovoltaic windows on our condos, wouldn't that really do a lot for us? Or is it just not cost effective?
Well, it may be a matter of solar panels work effectively when they get full sunshine.
Right.
And if they're shadowed, then the output from them is significantly affected.
Sure.
And so it's a difficult proposition. I am aware that there are buildings in which, the sunny side, the south side, if it's in the northern hemisphere side of the building, has got PV panels. Sometimes they're done in arrays that they're tilted, and then you've got, an array down the side of a building. But that's not the normal case.
No.
That's a lot of custom design work.
Well, when I saw these photovoltaic windows, and I just sort of wanted to talk about this a little bit, because the idea that my window itself could be something that generates electricity for my condo, I thought that was kind of cool. I thought that was a cool factor with that,
That it's a possibility.
Yeah.
It's, there's a lot of people that would like to power their electric vehicles with a PV system, for example, on their home. The dream would be to power the EV vehicle with a PV system that with the solar electricity that you get just from shining on the car. That's pretty remote right now.
Well, the car would have to sit there for a long time.
You need a really lightweight car. You would need a really lightweight form of storing the energy.
Yes.
And there's just not that much energy in the sunlight by itself
Right.
To provide very much power to an automobile.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, I look at is that we're moving away from the single-family homes. More and more of us are living in condos, and of course, as you live in a condo, your ability to generate solar power and use it effectively is significantly hampered.
Right.
Based on the current designs of the buildings that we have and the way we gather solar energy.
Right.
Through photovoltaic systems.
Right.
So clearly we're having some challenges there because we're moving into vertical structures, but at the same time we're trying to move into a more renewable source of energy.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So we've got and then we've got currently we have an energy distribution platform.
Right.
That comes from HECO.
Yes.
Which of course they use fossil fuel.
Large part.
Yeah, and then of course they burn. I guess they have the incinerator that burns and creates energy through incineration.
H2
yeah,
project.
H2 project. Yeah. So we have that, but that's not going to get us to 100% renewable energy.
No, we need a plan. We need a plan. Certain, not just for electric power, but also for energy for transportation uses. And this is something I've done a lot of work on. And before you can have a plan, you got to have a planning process.
That's right. That's
a process
right.
to make a plan.
Yeah,
and there's
that's
got to
right.
be some consensus among the people that are making the decisions on what that process is. And before you can have a planning process, it makes a big difference to have a goal that you're working towards.
Well, if you don't have a common goal, then your planning process isn't going to really.
It won't be oriented. It'll be one thing. And so what's remarkable about Hawaii, and this is something of global impact, is that there's a consensus now on that Hawaii is going to get 100% of its electric power from renewable sources, and that's quite an undertaking. We're not quite there yet in getting 100% in terms of a consensus on 100% renewable energy for transportation uses, but I'm working on that too.
Well, I understand that hydrogen cars are now coming back. A few are coming back into Hawaii.
Okay.
But of course, one of the challenges with vehicles is that you have to have a way to redistribute energy.
Right.
Whether it's hydrogen or electricity. One of the challenges with electrical vehicles is it takes a while for the vehicle to recharge.
Among other things, right.
Right. So with hydrogen, apparently the ability to refuel the vehicle, the convenience factor is that it's relatively fast, maybe 5 to 7 minutes to refuel a vehicle with hydrogen. That certainly would, in my mind, would extend my ability or or give me a vehicle that I would find more viable to drive, that I know that I can refuel it in a reasonably short period of time. But again, we have to produce the hydrogen. We have to have a mechanism for of generating hydrogen, whether we're generating electricity or generating hydrogen vehicles, or even vehicles that run in compressed air. You still have to have a way of taking that potential energy that you get from the sun, storing it, and then retrieving it as necessary.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a complex proposition, and that's why it's so important to have a planning process that looks at options, for example, hydrogen-fueled vehicles or battery-powered vehicles that rely on stored electric energy in batteries. And the bottom line is that to get vehicles that provide the performance that you want and expect from a vehicle, you have to pay for it.
That's right. That's right.
Right. And so right now, the cost for electric vehicles or hydrogen-fueled vehicles is very high compared to the status quo of just using an ordinary.
And whenever you make these kinds of changes, there's a large upfront capital investment expenditure that has to get made.
Right.
Whether you're building out a distribution system or you're changing an existing platform to accommodate new systems. So these are some unique challenges. So how do you get a consensus? Because clearly that's got to be one of the big challenges here.
Well, it starts in a report that I wrote called Creating the Electric Utility We Want. I talk about that the situation in terms of getting consensus for electric power production and how to get to 100% renewable energy. And the key ingredient, the first of all, is getting the consensus on the goal that we want 100% renewable energy. We may not know how to get there. We may not know every step to get there. We may not know right now the most economical things, the things that provide the greatest benefit. But if there's agreement on the goal, then that's the indispensable first step on taking that journey. The second step is what I talk about in my report, which is creating a planning process that's oriented to that goal. And
so now, when you talk, are there parts to a planning process? When you
yes.
talk about a planning process, are there
Yes.
like incremental pieces to that?
Yes. Planning process, the one that I invite people like our utility to consider, it has different steps. Basically, the first step is identifying what are your plausible renewable energy options.
So I want to take, I want to stop there just for a moment.
Sure.
We're going to go take a quick break.
Okay.
We'll come back, and folks, we're going to tell you about the other 4 parts that you're going to need to know in order to create a planning process. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Aloha.
Hey, Stan the Energy Man here. I know you're bored this summer. You're just sitting at home, figuring out what to do, go to the beach. Spend some time with Think Tech Hawaii. Spend the time thinking about how you can contribute to Hawaii and making it a better place to live. And start watching some of the programs on Think Tech, including Stan the Energy Man, where you'll learn all about everything energy, especially hydrogen and transportation. So we'll see you every Friday at 12 o'clock noon. Stan the Energy Man here on Think Tech Hawaii. Aloha.
Hi, I'm Ray Starling, and I am co-host for Hawaii's Wednesday afternoon State of Clean Energy. And with me today is Leslie Cole Brooks, and she's going to tell you what's happening this month with our shows.
Hi everybody, I'm Leslie Cole Brooks, the Executive Director of the Distributed Energy Resources Council, and this month the focus is on distributed energy resources. We just had a great show on smart grid technologies, and the rest of the month we're going to discuss storage, different strategies, microgrids, and then we're going to have live man and woman on the street from Verge. So it's really exciting, very informative, lively, and just worth doing. So see you next Wednesday.
And we're back. Hi, I'm Chris Lethem with The Economy and You, and today's guest is Erik Kvam. He is with the Hawaii Energy Law Services, and you're also with REACH.
Right.
And we're talking about the sort of the planning process and the steps of building a planning process. And you know, I'm very process oriented. As a software developer, I always think about process.
Right.
And so when we talk about you know the process of something, I sort of key in on it. So it may not necessarily sound sexy, but you know, these are the building blocks to building a successful platform. So the first one, repeat the first.
Identifying the plausible renewable energy options.
Okay.
And the second step is perhaps the most important, which is systematically evaluating those options in a way that they can be compared. And then the third step is composing a plan based on your evaluations of the options.
Okay.
So fourth step is optimizing the plan, looking at the plan as a whole. Does it make sense? Does it get us the greatest benefits for the utility and the people that pay the bills, the ratepayers? Fifth step is implement it. You know, actually implement the first step of the plan using the options that you're most confident in, because you've done the work of looking at everything and comparing it and selecting the options that are going to provide the greatest economic benefit in dollars relative to their costs.
Well, what you just said there, actually, these 5 points that you just mentioned just now, I think these apply across many areas. You know, not just with a utility, but in other parts of people who are trying to maybe, you know, within an organization launch a new project.
Oh yes, yeah, definitely.
You know?
Yeah, I mean it's you know, there's an author I like. His name is Doug Krug, K-R-U-G, and he wrote a book called The Missing Piece in Leadership, and he talks about the what and the how. Okay, and he says if you've got an organization of people, before you can expect to achieve anything, you know, through that organization of people, you've got to have consensus on the what. The what is, what do we want? Okay.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
And until you do, if you try tackling, you know, all the other stuff, it's largely
It becomes
waste
like,
of time.
it's kind of like herding
Yeah.
cats at that point.
It's very, very difficult. And so once there's consensus on the what, then the conversation with people can shift to, okay, we're in agreement on what we want, how do we get there? And that's what's happened. That's the big picture for renewable energy.
And is that what we're doing with HECO? We're making progress with HECO?
That's exactly where we're at. I mean, I spent certainly about 3 years working with them, conversing with them, I should say, to help them come into consensus on the what. In other words, what we want is 100% renewable energy. And with that change, that's happened about a year ago. And now the conversation has shifted to how. How do we get there? And the how part of the process, because you're a process guy, that has 3 parts to it. First is planning process, second is making the plan, third part is implementing the plan. So right now we're at the first of those steps, which is there's still a conversation going on about, what's the planning process to make a plan? How do we evaluate all these many options that are available to us? Are we in consensus that our plan is going to consist of the options we want, in the amounts we want, in the order we want?
And seems to be that this is sort of strategic thinking more than short-term tactical.
You need to have that very broad strategic understanding of it in order to succeed. But what I'm convinced of is that we in Hawaii, our electric utility, the people that care about renewable energy for transportation, I'm convinced we're going to succeed. Yeah, because that's
great.
Yeah, it is great, and it's a marvelous opportunity.
Well, we have a mindset. I think people of Hawaii do have a mindset. I think for whatever reason we're a little bit closer to nature. We also realize the vulnerability of living on an island.
Right.
I think from 9/11 and when we had the airplanes. When we had that no-fly period, we all sort of started to feel that vulnerability up close and personal. So we know what that's like.
Yes.
And I think that still resides in our mind today when we talk about the importance of renewable energy.
Yeah, and I think the people that are consensus with that goal of 100% renewable energy, I think that's part of their thinking. I mean, that's why it takes some time and some patience to get people focused on, okay, that's a goal. I don't have to worry about how I'm going to get there. I can be in consensus with the goal, and that's progress.
So how does the everyday Joe, everyday guy who just goes to work every day, does his job, goes home, has a couple of beers and wants to relax and enjoy life, how does he contribute to this solutions?
That's a good question. I got asked that same question by a legislator recently, and I had to break.
By the way, whoever asked that question, it's a good question.
I had to, and for energy, I had to break it down because the average person is not going to know a whole lot about what's called utility resource planning, right? It's like, okay, what do I do? But customers have choices. They have choices about self-generation options in the case of utility use. They have choices about energy efficiency options, things like solar hot water, things like whatever.
LED light bulbs,
LED light bulbs, exactly.
I'm renovating a house now, and we've changed all the lighting to LED.
Right. And so that's an area where it's not just the utility making the decisions, it's the customers making their decisions too. Things like time of use rates, for example, that will influence people to use electricity at other times of the day. That can make a huge contribution, to moving everybody towards 100% renewable energy. Because when you do those demand management things, they reduce the denominator. If you're measuring 100% renewable energy, the numerator is the renewable generation. The denominator is the total use. So if you're shrinking that denominator, you're increasing the percentage of 100%.
Well, that's true. But and one of the other things that we talk about is using battery technology and smart grid technology and how these can be incorporated to help manage the amount of electricity that we need to distribute at any given time because we have the capacity to store energy and release it as needed. Are we making progress in that camp?
Yeah, well, where the progress is being made now, remember I said there's a conversation going on with the people at the utility about systematically evaluating options. And battery storage, that's one category of renewable energy options. And right now, they're not doing that systematic evaluation yet. We're trying to get them into that consensus where they're systematically evaluating the merits of battery storage technology, whether it's utility controlled or customer controlled, against the many, many other energy options that are available to the utility and to its customers. We want a process in which the utility is identifying what are going to be the best options for both themselves and all their customers, and facilitating those options. So the good thing is that there's a conversation going on about that, and I'm very optimistic that we're going to see in the next year, we're going to see a consensus emerge at Hawaiian Electric about that planning process, and then you're going to start seeing some decisions being made. And it's all about more and better decisions for renewable energy, and customers are part of those decisions.
Well, the thing is there's this sort of a melding of technologies. In some parts now they're able to use utility lines to transfer data. For example, okay, so now you have this sort of, my electric line is not just my electric line, it's now my phone line, and it's also my, by the way, I can get internet now, I'm getting my internet service over that utility line, and that merging of technologies, and being able to use the same thing redundantly. Well, then those things, of course, offer opportunity for the electric company to maybe participate in other areas.
That's correct, and see, there's no shortage of opportunities, of viable options. There's no shortage of new technologies or adaptations of old technologies that are economic, that provide lots of benefits relative to their costs. The confusion is in which ones do we pick? How do we evaluate all these many choices that are available to this, to us as customers, and to the utility as an energy provider, and to people that want to use renewable energy for transportation. And that's where again we come back to the planning process that results in a plan that expresses, okay, here's an identification of the options that are going to get us further to the energy security benefits of renewable energy and the environmental preservation benefits, and we can get a long way there and save money. And so what are those options? Right now, I don't know. No one knows, because we don't, we're not quite yet at the point where there's a consensus on a plan that identifies those options.
I think when you talk about having an objective evaluation process system, the thing is you also want to make sure that you're not including anything as sort of a vanity-based survey that says, okay, am I doing a good job, and do I get to pat myself on the back for the fine job I'm doing? But it really needs to be truly objective.
It can be.
Yes.
That's not the issue, but you mentioned something really important, is that part of the way that we get consensus on having consensus on the goal and now getting consensus on the planning process is the prospect of enjoying success, right, at a personal level and at an organizational level. If you happen to work for the utility, or if you happen to work for a renewable energy provider, those are very powerful motivations. And so, but again, that success will come once there's a planning process in place and plans that people can look at and say, okay, now I understand, why the utility is pushing these options and saying to other options, not now. They're still too costly. May not be what we want to go with now. We get a lot further to 100% renewable energy, perhaps with demand response options now, or time of use options, than we do with hydrogen vehicles, for example.
So it sounds like to me, maybe even if what you're talking about is a way of communicating to people, perhaps when they turn on the stove, or they turn on the washing machine, that, hey, by the way, if you would wait an hour or so, we're letting you know right now when you turn that on. But if you wait an hour or so, we'll actually give you a better deal on the amount of electricity that you're using.
Options like that. I mean, those fall in the category of what I call high benefit, low cost options. And there are many of them, but we don't see them being implemented because you have to have confidence that those are really the best options.
I think we need to do a show just on those. I think that would be great.
I'm sure.
So let's, and we just have a couple more minutes. So if people wanted to support REACH or learn more about REACH and what you're doing and participate in that discussion, how would they contact you? How do they reach out to you?
Well, they could go to the website, which is reachawaii.org. My email address is my name, erik.kvam@reachawaii.org.
Okay.
Or they could, of course, reach me via the email address you showed before, which is erik.kvam, spelled Kvam, at hawaiienergylaw.com. I'm happy to share. I write reports. I do a bi-weekly report on what's happening in terms of distributed generation.
Now, are you publishing these on a website?
I send them out to an email distribution list.
Oh, okay.
So I get permission from
So
people.
if they wanted to be on your email distribution, they can reach out to you, and that's a way for them to...
Yeah, these are complimentary reports.
Yeah, okay, that's awesome. Okay. Well, I want to thank you very much, Erik, for coming on the show today. You know, energy is one of these topics that we just have to, it is for us an imperative.
Yes.
And I'm glad that you're taking the initiative to be a part of the solution. I know sometimes it may feel like a thankless work, but I'm sure at the end of the day, we will all benefit from your efforts. So
thank you, Chris.
Thank you for being on Think Tech Hawaii and on the Economy and You. And we'll see you all next week here, Wednesday at 3 o'clock, right here at the same station. We'll see you then.